What's good, y'all? Riley Beats here, and I'm gonna just go over some 808 stuff today, a few drum things, nothing too crazy. You might notice I'm in the same sweater as the last video. That's just because I'm recording right back to back, same day, nothing too crazy. So if you could leave a like, comment, subscribe, that'd be huge for me, for you, for the algorithm, and for the community, and I'd appreciate it greatly. Thank you. So let's get right into it. So I have this loop here. I made this with Veil. You all don't know, Veil is great. This is his at, by the way, at prod Veil MIA. I'm not really gonna chop up the loop or anything. I don't really need to. We're just gonna go over how to make drums, make better 808s all around. So we don't really need to do anything too crazy in that regard. I'm just gonna use a spins 808 too, because we're gonna keep this pretty basic. And again, it is a trap beat. Like the. I'll let you listen to the loop real quick, and you'll see why I'm going for a spins 808. So again, I made that loop with Veil. He sent me some MIDI. I did sound selection. Nothing too crazy. It is C sharp minor. So I'm going to go with a spins 808, the Diana spins. You saw my mixing tutorial, you know what I'm going to put on my master bus. If you don't know, you can just check that out, and there might be a link somewhere. Again, I'm not too YouTube savvy. So let's go over to the spins 808, and we'll throw down a pattern. By the way, you always want to make sure that your 808 is in key. So you can just press the little flag here, detect pitch regions, bam, C here. So that's all good. Again, I talk about this a bit more in the mixing tutorial, and then you're going to want to put cut self so the 808 doesn't overlap. This makes it so the 808 cuts itself when the next one plays. I've mentioned this before, but something I like to do is I like to bring up the boost knob, especially on spins 808s. Usually I'll bring it around about 50, nothing too crazy. So I'm just going to lay down the bones to my 808 pattern, and then we'll go over everything and add more to it as we go. If you're using a loop and you're not too sure what notes to use, just pitch your whole 808 up about 2 octaves, and you'll be able to hear how it sounds in the mix a little bit better. Usually with my 808 patterns, I like to copy them over. I'm actually going to change this 808 just to a different spins, and then I'm going to clip it a tiny bit. If you notice your 808 and your melody are clashing, you can just cut some of the lows out from the melody, just so there's a little bit more space for the 808 in the mix. Again, you don't want to cut out too many of the lows from the melody, because again, it does reduce the quality of the melody. Now that I have the bones of the 808 pattern, what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to add a few more accenting 808s just to bounce things out a bit better. This is something I like to do in a lot of my beats, and this is just a little 808 roll. Like to bring down the velocity of some of them so it kind of rolls into the next 808, and I'll let you hear how that sounds now. It's almost like a reversed 808, but just a bit more punchy initially. And if you want to make your 808 really bouncy, mess around with third notes. And just because this is a tutorial, I'm going to be doing the absolute most with the 808s just so I can show you guys all the different things you can do. So I'll talk about slide notes a little bit too. I don't really use slide notes a whole lot because I don't make genres that use slide notes a lot. These are probably not the best 808s to show you slide notes, but I'll just show you what you can do to make slide notes. So you go in here, you bring in your 808, and the length of this note will be how long the slide takes. That's important to notice. If you double click on it, a little menu will pop up. There's 2 options, and you can see the options here as well. You can click those to bring in slide notes. You want to click the one that is the little triangle with the ramp kind of look, and that will make it a slide note. So this is now a slide note. It should be, at least. So now the little triangle is on the note, and that's how you know it's a slide note. You can also do this, and any note you add will be a slide note. And you can hear how that note slides slowly. Because it's a short 808, it's not going to last too long. So if you do this, it'll slide really fast. And that slides almost instant. So those are just a few tricks you can do with 808s. And feel free to play around with the velocity of them. You can even mess around with the panning. So if you go into here, you can mess with the velocity. You can highlight the notes, press Alt and scroll, and that'll bring down the velocity, or you can even just click and move it. If you want to mess with the panning, just click on this triangle and then click note pan. There's a bunch of options like release, filter cutoff, resonance, and fine pitch, and even some channel controls, but I mostly just mess around with velocity and panning. I'm not really going to do any panning here, but just as an example, you could do something like this. Here's how that sounds. So it's good sometimes for drill beats. Again, I'm going to copy this over and I'm going to change some of the things that I've added. So again, I have the roll here, but I don't like having too many of those, so I'm going to remove that. I'm also going to remove the slide because again, I don't really want that. And I'm going to remove this too because I don't need this. So here's how this sounds. So with your 808s, don't get too crazy. You want to leave some room for the rest of the drums and for an artist to be on top of it. So like I said, this is just for example to show you some tricks you can do. When it comes to mixing the 808, I don't like to do too much with it. I usually just throw an EQ on it. I do some EQ slotting with a kick, but I'm not adding a kick here. I like to bring up the low mids a bit so it has a bit more high frequencies. And this is good for phones and laptop speakers, just so that the 808 still comes through cleanly in those. And make sure you use your ears too. See where it sounds best and how much you should boost by. That'll often sound good is having hi-hat rolls on top of your 808s. So here I have an 808 and I'm just going to add a little roll just to show you. And for my rolls, I like to bring the velocity down of the following notes. Adding in those third notes and those 1/6 notes, those add in a nice syncopation. What syncopation is, in simplest terms, is it just adds a bit more bounce and highlights notes and a little bit nicer. So here I'm highlighting this note by the syncopation leading into it. Now that I have my hi-hat pattern, I'm just going to delete all this and then copy it over, keeping it pretty simple. Something else that usually sounds good is adding an open hat on top of an 808. This just accentuates the 808 because open hats have higher frequencies and 808s have lower frequencies, and so it draws a bit more attention to that 808. So if there's any 808s you want to highlight a bit, free to add an open hat on top. Remember, don't add too much. Something else you can do with open hats is you can pan them as much as you'd like. So I'm just going to pan these here and I'm going to pan these ones as well. And then I'm also going to put cut self because I have these playing so close together that they overlap and I want them to be a bit sharper in that sense. And here's how that sounds now. So again, I appreciate all y'all watching, and if you could leave a like, comment, and subscribe, that'd be greatly appreciated. And here's how the full thing sounds.